The transport shuttle descended through the swirling violet clouds of the gas giant's upper atmosphere, its inertial dampeners humming against the turbulence. Inside, the human engineer worked swiftly, his hands moving over the fractured conduit panel. Opposite him, perched on a repulsor couch of iridescent silk, was the alien princess. Her skin held the subtle shimmer of mother of pearl, and the delicate sensory tendrils that framed her face trembled with suppressed agitation. Their respective fleets, locked in a tense standoff, awaited the outcome of this emergency repair on a neutral diplomatic vessel. "The primary coupling is fused," the human said, his voice calm and practical. "I can bypass it, but we will have only basic life support and communications until your people can effect a full repair." "That is acceptable," the princess replied, her voice a melodic chime. "Your efficiency is noted." He nodded, focusing on the task. The silence stretched, filled only by the sigh of the ship and the distant rumble of the gas giant. It was a stressful quiet, heavy with unspoken political ramifications. He found his thoughts drifting to the briefing. Her species, the Ixthani, communicated on multiple levels. Words were merely the surface. Beneath lay intricate currents of social bonding, where phrases of care were never spoken lightly, reserved for profound, lifelong commitments. He finished the bypass, sealing the panel. The main lighting flickered back to a steady glow. A wave of relief, compounded by hours of intense focus and the weight of preventing an interstellar incident, washed over him. As he turned to her, a common human expression of reassurance sprung to his lips, utterly benign in his own culture. "There," he said, offering a tired but genuine smile. "All secure. I cherish you. I cherish your safety. Your safety is paramount." The moment the first three words left his mouth, the world froze. The translator pendant around his neck emitted a soft, confused warble. On her couch, the princess went utterly still. The shimmer on her skin intensified into a radiant glow, and her large, luminous eyes widened. Her tendrils, previously trembling, stood rigid and began to flutter in a rapid, complex pattern. He realized his error instantly. The translator had parsed the sentence structure before his hasty correction. In Ixthani, there was no grammatical space for such a follow-up. The phrase "I cherish you" stood alone, absolute and profound. "You?" The whisper escaped her, a sound like crystal breaking. "You speak the deep words?" "It was a mistake," he said quickly, his face growing warm. "A slip of the tongue. In my language, it is a common courtesy, a way to express that one values another's well-being. It does not carry the weight you assign it." She stood, her movements uncharacteristically slow, as if moving through a viscous liquid. She approached him, the glow from her skin casting soft light on his plain engineering uniform. "There are no slips of the tongue with such phrases in my tongue. They are locked away, guarded by the heart until the moment of absolute certainty. To speak them is to bind one's soul." "I understand the cultural discrepancy," he insisted, taking a step back, hitting the console. "I apologize. It was not my intention to offer a binding." She studied him, her gaze searching his face for deception. "And yet you did. The words are spoken. They hang in the air between us. My people will have heard the translation through the comms channel before it was muted for repair." Despair curled in his gut. He had not just embarrassed himself. He had potentially sparked a galactic scandal. A human, a lowly engineer, verbally binding himself to an Ixthani royal heir? It was absurd, disastrous. The comm system crackled to life, the voice of the human captain tight with confusion. "Engineer, report. The Ixthani flagship is hailing us with what they are calling a life thread protocol. Explain." Before he could answer, the princess raised a hand, a gesture of command. "Inform both flagships that the crisis is averted. The bonding words had been spoken. All diplomatic channels must now recalibrate. "Princess, please," the human engineer pleaded, as that comes when silent again. "Silence," she said, but her voice was not harsh. It was contemplative. "You have appended everything. According to our protocols, I am now obligated to you and you to me. This changes the treaty, the alliance, everything." For days, the situation unfolded like a slow-motion collision. The human was given quarters aboard the Ixthani flagship, a place of honor that felt like a gilded cage. Advisors and diplomats buzzed around, speaking in hushed, frantic tones. The proposed alliance between humanity and the Ixthani Confederacy, once on the brink of failure over trade routes, was now thrust into a new and bizarre dimension. How does one negotiate with a people when a junior technician from the other side has accidentally proposed a permanent bond to a ruling princess? He saw her only during formal, painful gatherings. She was always regal, composed, the radiant glow around her muted. Her advisors looked at him with a mixture of awe and utter horror. His own superiors were baffled, issuing him strict orders to say nothing further without legal counsel. One evening, he found a small private viewport looking out at the stars. He felt a profound loneliness, adrift in a sea of protocol he had never meant to navigate. "You look lost." He turned. She stood there, without her usual retinue, wrapped in a simple silver sheath. The formal glow was absent, leaving only her natural shimmer. "I am," he admitted. "I broke something." "I didn't mean to. Did you not?" She came to stand beside him, gazing at the same starfield. "Your words were a mistake. But the sentiment behind your hasty correction, your safety is paramount, was that also a mistake?" "No," he said truthfully. "It was my duty, and it was what I felt. You are a living being. Your safety mattered. That is a deeper truth than you might realize," she murmured. "For days, my council has debated. Some say your words were a clever human trick to force the alliance. Others say they are void, coming from a species without true deep speech. They have analyzed your physiological data from the shuttle, your stress markers, your micro-expressions." He winced. "And what did they find?" "They found sincerity," she said, her crystal voice softening. "They found a spike of fear not for yourself, but for the diplomatic fallout. They found the relief you felt was for the repair. Yes, but also for my continued safety. The core of the deep words, in any language, is selfless regard. You possessed it in that moment. Accident or not, you spoke a truth." He had no answer. They stood in silence, watching a distant nebula paint cosmic colors across the black. "My people," she continued, "guard our hearts so fiercely we often forget to listen to them. My life has been a catalogue of duty, of expected bonds, and political arrangements. No one has ever said such words to me without calculating their value for a century. You just said them, and then tried to take them back because you feared the consequences for me." She turned to face him fully. "The negotiations are concluded. The alliance is ratified. It is surprisingly favorable. My council believes your accident demonstrated a fundamental, irrational honesty that makes humanity a trustworthy ally. They call it the bond of the errant heart. And what do you call it?" He asked, his voice barely a whisper. She stepped closer. The scent of ozone and starlight filled the air around her. Her luminous eyes held his. "I have spent my life hearing words placed like stones in a wall. I never thought to hear them launched like a seed into the wind, to land where they may." She paused, and a new, gentle light began to pulse within her. "You spoke a truth you did not intend. Now I will speak one I have carried since you looked at me in that shuttle. Not as a princess, but as a person you were determined to save." She leaned in, her sensory tendrils brushing the air near his cheek, and whispered the words in Ixthani. The translator at his neck rendered them in a soft, digital sigh. At last. Then she whispered their meaning. My heart heard yours before my mind could protest. The bond is accepted. Not as politics, not as protocol, but as a truth that found its voice in a mistake. He understood then. The words he had accidentally given were not a chain, but a key. And her whisper, at last, was not an end, but a beginning. It was the sound of a door, long locked, finally swinging open on a future neither had dared to imagine. Written not in treaties, but in the silent. Understanding space between two hearts that had found their way through a galactic blunder to something genuinely, quietly cherished.